Brothers and sisters, welcome back to the Behaviour Revolution Scriptures, where we are diving into this 21st century transliteration from Hebrew to English to make deliverance easy for people. And I hope you're understanding it, and I hope it's bringing life to the Scriptures, because I want the Scriptures to be easy to understand. In our last episode, we introduced the characters of Yaakov and Esau. This was Yitzhak and Rivka's children, twin boys, and the prophecy was given to Rivka that the older child will serve the younger child, and she would have told all the family that. Yitzhak would have known, and the boys would have known too. And we left off last episode with this little chart here. Every firstborn son received both the birthright and the blessing. It was an inheritance with two parts. So what's the difference? The birthright was the authority to rule as the head over the whole family and any clans after the father died. But the blessing, each child received some of the father's wealth after he died. However, the oldest child got a double portion. So at this point in the story, Yaakov had only scammed the birthright off his brother. Now, how was he going to get the blessing? Well, here we go. Yitzhak gives out the firstborn blessing. So this makes sense. I went through this and I didn't understand the significance of it until I studied it more, because there was a difference between the birthright and the blessing. He'd already got the birthright. How was he going to get the blessing off his brother? Because what's the point of having the birthright if you've got no money to back it up? Yeah? What's the point of having the authority if your older brother's got all the money? So, and not possessions, the wealth. It wasn't making sense. He had to have both. Yitzhak gives the firstborn blessing. When Yitzhak was old and blind and knew he didn't have much time left, he decided to overlook what Yahusha had told Rivka about their younger son ruling over the older. This was the birthright Yaakov had already cunningly acquired himself, and intended to go ahead anyway and give Esau the firstborn blessing, because he was his favourite son. These parents are playing favourites, aren't they? Which, shouldn't happen. You should love all your children equally. So these parents are playing favourites. And even though Yahusha had said this, he's going to go against it and give Esau the firstborn blessing. If Yitzhak gave Esau the firstborn blessing, it would have nullified Yaakov having the birthright, because he would have the title but no real authority without the family wealth to back it up. So it was really just a phantom promise. It meant nothing. There was nothing there. So he called for his son Esau, saying, "I am very old, my boy, and could die any time. Take your weapons and go hunt some wild game for me. Then bring it back and make one of those amazing, tasty dishes that I love. I want to eat and drink with you tonight and have a lovely time, because I'm going to pass the blessings and promises on to you as my firstborn son before I die." This was a huge deal, guys. Doesn't mean much in our culture, but back then it meant a lot to have your father speak words over you before he died, and pass on the blessing. Esau and Yaakov were around 66 years old here. I didn't even realise that either. I thought they were teenagers, young men. No. Well, when Esau went and got married, hitched up to two pagan women when he was 40, and now we're 66. They're 66 years old here, these twins. 66 years old. So, old enough to know better, yeah? So he's told his son to go and hunt some wild game. Let's have a nosh up. And Rivka heard the whole conversation from outside and was flabbergasted. She wasn't going to take this betrayal of her favourite son's future laying down. So she ran to Yaakov and said, "Your father is ignoring what Yahuwah told me about your birthright and intends to give the blessings to your brother tonight. You've only got one shot at this, my boy, so if you want to get the blessing from your father, you'd better do everything I tell you. Now go out quickly to our flocks and bring back 2 young goats, and I'll make a stunning dish that your father will love, so you can get the blessing from him after he eats it. But Ya'qub had his doubts. Mum, my brother Esau is a big buff and hairy Bigfoot of a man. So what if my father touches me and feels my smooth skin? He will know that I lied to him, and he'll curse me instead of blessing me. So he's going to go in there and masquerade as his older brother, pretend to be his older brother. So he's getting a bit worried. Mum, my brother's a big hairy buff and hairy Bigfoot of a man. And he's got soft skin, obviously. So what if my father touches me and feels my smooth skin? He'll know that I lied to him, and he'll curse me instead of blessing me, because, Yitzhak's pretty much blind. He won't be able to see them. But Rivkah said, just do what I tell you and let any curses fall on me, Ya'qub. Now go and get those goats for me. And Ya'qub did as his mother instructed, and after she cooked a magnificent meal for him to serve his father, she put one of Esau's finest garments on him. She put him in his brother's clothes and stuck some of the skin from the goats on his hands, arms and the back of his neck, so that he felt and smelt like his older brother. So he was wearing his older brother's clothes, so he smelt like him, and she stuck animal fur all over his arms and the back of his neck in case his father touched him on the back of the neck or to embrace him. He'd feel furriness. Conniving, aren't they? So then she handed him the dish to serve his father and sent him into Yitzhak's tent. Hey Dad, the meal you asked for is ready. Check out this beauty. Smells amazing. Huh? Who's there? Yitzhak was having 40 winks. It's me, Esau, your firstborn son. Come, get up and let's eat this before it gets too cold, so you can give out the blessings to me. But Yitzhak said, wow, that was really fast. How did you hunt it so quickly? And thinking on his feet, Ya'qub responded, Yahuwah must have brought the goat straight onto my path today so I could hunt quicker. He's such a liar, isn't he? But Yitzhak smelt a rat and thought, it sounds a lot like Ya'qub. Is he up to his old tricks again? So he said, come closer, my son, and let me embrace you. And hugging his son, he touched his arms and thought, it feels like the hands of Esau, for his hands were covered in goat's fur. So he said, is it really you, Esau? And Ya'qub lied, yes, it's really me, Dad. So the two of them ate and drank some wine, and then Yitzhak embraced his son and kissed his neck. He even smells like my rugged son, who's been out hunting all day in the field, he thought. Then Yitzhak blessed Ya'qub, saying, may Yahuwah, the creator of all the earth and the skies, give you every richness of blessing and abundance from the harvest, and vineyards full of beautiful wine, and may you be so rich and powerful and blessed in Yahuwah that all the nations become your servants and bow down to you, for you will possess authority over your brothers. Remember that line. Let anyone who blesses you be blessed, and anyone who curses you be cursed. That line there, you will possess authority over your brothers, is very interesting. Because saying this, look in the turquoise there, saying this proves that he thought he was talking to Esau, for he knew his older son had sold away his birthright, and he was giving Esau authority over his younger brother anyway. Normally, if you give the birthright is the authority and the blessing is the finances. But as part of his blessing, he's talking about authority. So he's giving Esau not only the blessing, but the authority. Even though Ya'qub had taken the authority, he's giving it back to Esau. He's double-crossing. He's double-crossing what Ya'qub had done to his brother, and he's double-crossing what Yahusha had said by giving back the authority to Esau, the oldest. But he doesn't realise that the double cross, double flick back, whammy, bang, wang, bang has been done to him. The double cross he's been double crossing, doing the double cross. Does that make sense? Even though 𝔹𝐴𝐴𝐴 had his authority taken off him, 𝔹𝐴𝐴𝐴's giving it back to him as his oldest son. But of course he doesn't realise that he's not talking to his oldest son, is he? And no sooner had 𝔹𝐴𝐴𝐴 finished blessing 𝗪𝗪𝗑 that 𝔹𝐴𝐴 rocked up with his delicious dish, ready to serve his father. What? But when he announced himself and 𝔹𝐴𝐴𝐴 realised the grand deception that had just taken place, 𝔹𝐴𝐴𝐴 was horrified. He went pale and started to tremble uncontrollably, saying, "I'm so sorry, my son, but I've already blessed your younger brother 𝗪𝗪𝗑, for he just tricked me, and the power of my spoken blessing cannot be removed." It wasn't just a, "Oh no, I take it back." You can't take it back. Once it was spoken, once the spoken word was given, the power of it. See, there's power in the words that we speak, particularly if they come from Yahusha. The words that we speak, you can't just, "Oh, you tricked me, no, I'm taking that back now." He couldn't do it. He'd already spoken the words. And they can't be removed. The power of my spoken blessing cannot be removed. He has indeed been blessed as my firstborn son, and I have made him the master over everything I own, and all his brothers too. And when 𝔹𝐴𝐴 heard these words, he cried out loudly, pleading with his father to please bless him too. But 𝔹𝐴𝐴𝐴 said, "I'm so sorry, my son, but you will be away from the blessings of the earth and from above, and you shall live by your sword and serve your brother. But one day you will remove his burden from your neck." And 𝔹𝐴𝐴 wept bitterly, screaming and cursing the name of 𝗪𝗪𝗑, saying, "That lying deceiver not only cheated me out of my birthright, but now he has stolen my blessing too. He is indeed called 𝗪𝗪𝗑," which means deceiver. Remember, they called 𝔹𝐴𝐴𝐴 because he was red and hairy, and they called 𝗪𝗪𝗪 because he was holding onto his brother's heel, and because he was a deceiver, a usurper, you know. So that's why. He certainly is a 𝗪𝗪𝗑. That's what he's saying, and he hated his brother. So, do you understand all that, guys, about the birthright and the blessing? 𝗪𝗪𝗑 took the birthright off his brother for a bowl of soup, and 𝔹𝐴𝐴𝐴 was going to disregard that and give it back to 𝔹𝐴𝐴 anyway as part of the blessing. Because when he went in to bless 𝔹𝐴𝐴, he included the birthright in the blessing. Does that make sense? Taking everything back off 𝗪𝗪𝗑. But he didn't realise that he was actually blessing 𝗪𝗪𝗑 anyway, because 𝗪𝗪𝗑 had gone in there pretending to be his brother, and the spoken words were given, and 𝗪𝗪𝗑 had weaseled away with both, which, funnily enough, is what Yahusha said would happen, isn't it? So we're not excusing 𝗪𝗪𝗑's behaviour, but we are saying that Yahusha said this would happen. Yahusha knew. 𝗪𝗪𝗑 could have waited for Yahusha to do it his way, but he took it his way. And because of 𝗪𝗪𝗑 doing everything in his flesh, in his way, doing it his way, 𝗪𝗪𝗑, as we're going to see in future, in episodes to come, had to go through an experience. Because men had to be tested in the scriptures and go through a name change and a behaviour change to be used and chosen by Yahusha, just like we do. We don't go through a physical name change. Those who do are pretty wacky. You don't have to change your name, guys, to Rabbi Moshe Eliyahu, Natsu. It's ridiculous. You don't change your name. The name, you don't have the right to change your name. Your name, this is another interesting thing about scripture, you don't have the right to change your name. Yahusha gives your parents the right to name you. Your parents are the only people who have the authority to name you until you leave your parents' home and you take on the name of your new home, which is the name of your husband. That's what Scripture says. You don't have the authority to choose your own name. Your parents gave you a name, and when you leave the ownership, the word left me. And when you've left the covering of your parents, you enter the covering of your husband, and you get given a new name, the name of your husband, and the surname. And then, of course, when we enter the new Yahusha, not the, for God's sake. And of course, when we come out of the water at our immersion, we take on the name of our bridegroom on our foreheads, Yahusha. So you don't have the right to choose anything. So Yahusha's just stolen his birthright and the blessing. We've got a nice little chart here, and this continues on because it's interesting to see how the lineage of the eternal blood covenant made with Abraham. It was all about Yahusha's promises and man's behaviour. It was two-way. Yahusha offered the promises, but mankind had to behave themselves to partake of it. So we see here, Abram and his covenant was renewed to, and his name was changed to Abraham. Abraham had his blood covenant wife, his real wife was Sarah. In the bold here, Sarah, and this line here carried down to Yitzhak, because they only had one son, Yitzhak. And then we have Ribkah, who he married, and then Ribkah had two sons, Esau and Yaakov. So the covenant is now flowing, the blood covenant is flowing through this son here. And we can see in the fainter grey that Abram had Ishmael from Hagar, and Abraham also had Keturah, which was a wife later on, and all these sons from him as well. All these sons from her. So, and all these people became nations too. Midianites, all these nations kept going. But this was a clean bloodline here. The Hebrew clean bloodline kept going this way. All right? It was all about Yahusha's promises and man's behaviour. So we see the trustworthiness of Yahusha in this. So, we've got a little bit more time. Yaakov flees to his uncle Laban. Esau hated his brother with a passion and said, "My father is about to die. So after everyone has mourned him, I'm going to kill my brother." He had respect for his father, and he didn't want to detract from it. So he said, "My father is soon to die. After everyone has mourned him, I'm going to kill my brother." And word of this got back to Ribkah, who sent for Yaakov and warned him, saying, "Listen, my son, your brother Esau is planning to kill you after your father dies. So you must flee to my brother Laban's house." Remember, this is where Ribkah came from, where 𝗹𝕖𝕙𝕒𝕗 travelled nearly 1,000 kilometres to find her from their family. You've got to go there. Flee to my brother Laban's house for a while until your brother chills out and forgets about all his anger towards you. I don't want to lose both you and your father. So please go, and I'll send for you when it's safe again. And Yitzhak heard that his son Yaakov was leaving and asked Ribkah about it. He said, "Yes, Yitzhak, I'm sending Yaakov away because I'm totally disgusted by how these local Hittite women behave with their idols of wood and stone. Those daughters of Kath are like filthy whores, and I'd rather die than watch my son Yaakov follow in his brother's footsteps and marry a woman like that. I'm sending him away to my brother's house so that he may find a wife among our relatives, and he will be safe from Esau's wrath for now." So after seeing that Yahusha had indeed had his way in the situation, after all, by giving Yaakov the blessing, he called Yaakov to him before he left and said, this is Yitzhak talking before he's about to die. He said to Yaakov, "Under no circumstances are you to do what your brother Esau has done and marry a woman from the local Canaanites, but go to Paddan Aram to your mother's family in Haran, and find a wife for yourself among the daughters of your uncle Laban. And may 𝔹𝕚𝕚𝕚 bless you and make you prosperous upon the earth, and turn you into a great assembly of people. Great assembly of people. There's a lot of significance in that. Remember, this is Yitzhak's last words over his son. And he's telling him, you're going to be a great assembly of people. What were the tribes of Yisrael? A great assembly of people. It gets brought up later on. And may he pass the promised blessings of Abraham, our father, down to you, my son, so that you inherit this promised land of your wanderings, which was given to my father Abraham before us. So it was all about the land. They didn't want to be wandering anymore. It's all about getting this land. Don't lose sight of that, because this was the promise to Abraham. Land. I'm going to give you a land of your own. Abraham never got to see it. It doesn't look like Yitzhak's going to see it either. But he's telling his son, this is our promised land. It's going to be given to us. And Yitzhak and Rivkah kissed him and sent Yaakov away to stay with his uncle Laban. And after Esau heard about all this, that Yaakov was told not to marry a Canaanite woman under any circumstances, he realized that his rebellious lifestyle and marriages had brought much grief on his parents. His father was still willing to bless him though, go figure. But his father's obviously seen the error in his ways, and he's now given more blessing to Yaakov. But after Esau realized this, he realized how much grief he brought on his parents, and since his brother had acted in obedience by going to his relatives to find a wife, Esau decided to play the family card also and go visit his uncle Ishmael and marry his daughter, Machalath, acquiring yet another wife. And Yaakov travelled out from Beersheba and headed towards Haran, stopping for the night near Bethel. Bethel, remember Bethel? Remember Bethel? The house of Elohim, at the place where Abraham had first set up the stone table in celebration of Yahuwah for the first time many years before. This is where Abraham was first spoken to by Yahusha. And Yaakov took one of the stones from the ground and put it under his head as a pillow, and fell right off to sleep, dreaming about a great ladder that stood on the earth, which reached right up into the sky, connecting the dimensions. And he saw the messengers of Yahusha flying up and down on the ladder. Imagine visualizing this. He could see into the dimensions. The angels, the messengers were going up and down on this ladder in between the dimensions. And he saw the messengers of Yahusha flying up and down on the ladder, and at the very top, Yahusha himself stood there saying, here we go, Yahusha's actually putting the covenant, lifting up the covenant, raising up the covenant with Yaakov now. He's gone from Abraham to Yitzhak, and now he's raising up a covenant with Yitzhak, saying, I am Yahuwah, the Elohim of your fathers Abraham and Yitzhak, and the ground which you are laying on will be yours and your descendants, for they shall be as numerous as the dust of the earth, shooting forth to the north, south, east, and west, and all the clans of the earth will be blessed from your family. Never forget that I am with you always, and I will guard and protect you wherever you go. I will never leave you, and will do what I have promised, raising up with you my eternal blood covenant of deliverance. This is really significant because despite his behavior, Yaakov has been chosen by Yahusha to lift up the blood covenant with him. And he makes promises with him. And he's going to put him, like he takes Israel out into the wilderness to detox them. Like he takes all of us, he says, come out from the world, come out from the economies, come out from religion, come out from all the systems, come out within yourself, come out, detox. He's going to detox Yaakov now. He's going to detox, he wasn't raised as a pagan, but he's going to detox all Yaakov out of him. He's going to purge all the Yaakov out of him until he becomes, we're not up to that yet, until he becomes Yisrael. He changes his name to Yisrael, just like he changed Abram's name to Abraham. he's going to change Yaqub's name to Yisrael. But he has to go through a purging first. And he's going out on his own. He's leaving his mother and his father's home. He's going out into the world to find a wife. And at this pivotal point in his life, Yahusha appears to him, shows him the dimension, shows him how powerful and cosmic and, the creator of the earth and the skies and everything in it. He shows him, and then he promises him that he will bless him. Never forget that I am with you always, and I will guard and protect you wherever you go. I will never leave you and will do what I have promised, raising up with you my eternal blood covenant of deliverance. And when Yaqub woke up from his sleep, he was refreshed and excited, saying, surely 𝔹𝕖𝕙𝕒𝕚𝕚 is in this place, and I never even knew it. It may as well be called the house of Elohim, for it appears to be the gateway to connect with the Creator. This was the Stargate. Remember, back then, these altars, these places that Yahusha met people, they were like omens almost. They thought, if I go back to the same place, it's like a Stargate, it's like a portal. If I go here and behave and do the right thing, slaughter an animal and say the right words, maybe the Creator will appear to me. So he says, surely 𝔹𝕚𝕚𝕚 is in this place, and I never even knew it. It may as well be called the house of Elohim, for it appears to be the gateway to connect with the Creator. And Yaqub took the stone that had been under his head, stood it up as a standing memorial, and poured oil over the top of it, anointing its head. And as with most of our pictures, Yaqub probably had much, much darker skin than this pale, white-ass person here. But that's just an interpretation of it. You can see the dream going in between the dimensions, the staircase. Yahusha is our Mashiach, anointed one. Remember, Yaqub just anointed this rock. Who was the rock? Who's the anointed one? Yahusha. Mashiach means our anointed one. That's what Mashiach means, anointed one. So Yahusha is our Mashiach, connecting the dimensions. Yahusha connects the dimensions. The anointed rock who restored his house of Elohim, which was the Garden of Eden, through his eternal blood covenant with mankind. Remember, it was all about getting back to the Garden of Eden. All about getting back to the garden. Adam and 𝗂𝗜 pleaded with Yahusha to let them back into the garden. He said, no, I'm going to do it my way. You will be allowed back in, but not yet. It's got to be in my way and in my time. And through these stories, through these shadows, types and symbols and shadows, we see it started with Noach and then Abraham, and now Yitzhak and now Yaqub. We're talking about the blood, and we're talking about this covenant house. The covenant house is the Garden of Eden. The family, the marriage. And it had to come through Yahusha because he was the only one who could connect the dimensions again. The dimensions were severed by mankind, disobedience. So the dimensions had to be connected by a man's obedience to his Father's will. So the anointed rock who restored his house of Elohim through the eternal blood covenant. The chief cornerstone, the stone that the builders rejected, had his head anointed with oil shortly before his death and resurrection, re-establishing the eternal blood covenant of deliverance, allowing mankind to enter his house, Garden in Eden, and connect with him once again. And we haven't seen, like we talked about last episode, we haven't had the actual marriage consummation yet, but we've been betrothed. The bride price has been paid. And even though the place had previously been called Luz, Yaqub was the first to rename it Beit-El, House of Elohim. So when Moshe is telling us throughout the life of Abraham that he was at Bethel, he was at Beit-El, he's just telling us that that's where he was so that we geographically knew what Abraham was doing and where he was. But as far as the time when it was named, Yaqub was the one who named the place Beit-El, House, Beit of Elohim, because the Creator had chosen to visit him and re-establish the promises of the eternal blood covenant with him. just as he had Abraham before him in the same place. And Yaqub said to Yahusha, so here we go, he's talking back now. Since I am fleeing my homeland at the moment, if you will please keep me safe on this path I'm on and protect me, feeding me bread and keeping me clothed, then when I return home to my father Yitzchak's house, I will make this memorial stone here, the house of Yahuwah, and from everything you bless me, I will give back 1/10 to you. Interesting. Abraham did this with Melchizedek too. So he's realizing the sovereignty of Yahusha here, giving him 1/10 of everything. So this is pretty phenomenal what's happening to this conniving little deceiver, Yaqub. Yahusha's meeting with him. And as we all know, when Yahusha meets with us and woos us and draws us, it's you go on a roller coaster ride and you never look back, hopefully. You keep going forward on your pathway, and we're just seeing the beginning of Yaqub's path now. And my voice is going. This is my 3rd video in a row I've just recorded, so I'm going to go. I've got a client shortly. I love you, brothers and sisters. This life of Yaqub is just the beginning. We're going on, just like we went on an amazing multi-video journey with Abraham, we're about to go on with Yitzchak. Yitzchak, not Yitzchak, Yaqub. Too many Y's and Yits and Yahs, and it's been a phenomenal experience going through this whole idea of the blood covenant. There were those who found power and favor and importance in the blood covenant, and those who disregarded it. His brother didn't care about the blood covenant. He sure as hell did when he'd been kicked out of the blessings though, didn't he? So we have the choice to look at the affairs of this life, the pleasures of this life, the lusts of the flesh and things that pleasure us now, all of our senses and things that we can experience and get intoxicated by now, or we can put off, overcome this world, overcome and look at what our great expectation is, that Yahusha and what he's going to do when he comes back, which is burn this whole earth. So why would you get attached to anything in this earth? I mean, I'm on a path. I'm trying to buy a house right now, but it's not my be all and end all. It's just how Yahusha is training me to overcome the world, actually, to not spend all my money, to be responsible, be a wise and trustworthy steward of what he's given me. So overcome, brothers and sisters. Put your eyes on Yahusha, and I will see you next episode. Love you guys. Ready? Let's go. Yahuwah met with Adam and his pretty wife, fellowshipping daily in the Gan Eden. 𝗹𝗰𝗋 and connected by a door. That same door is open to us. We have direct access to King Yahusha. By belief we gather to King Yahusha. Open portal doorway to King Yahusha. We have access to King Yahusha. So listen very closely to each other now, 'cause something that is uttered will be straight from Yah. He's our Rabbi Shepherd, standing in the gap, and through his blood dimensions align. We have direct access to King Yahusha. By belief we gather to King Yahusha. Open portal doorway to King Yahusha. We have access to King Yahusha. Oh, we have direct access to King Yahusha. By belief we gather to King Yahusha. Open portal doorway to King Yahusha. We have access to King Yahusha. Yahweh's booth is rebuilt by King Yahusha. Among men or at walking is King Yahusha. Everlasting union with King Yahusha. We have access to King Yahusha. Let's sing Yahweh's booth. Yahweh's booth is rebuilt by King Yahusha.
Oh, we have direct access to King Yahusha. I believe we gather to King Yahusha. Open portal doorway to King Yahusha. We have access to King Yahusha. We have access to King Yahusha.